So since the last video, we've had a couple of days and nights of heavy rain. Creek backing up. Creek is way down there beyond that new sandbar, beach, whatever you want to call it. The blue flags is where we had the straw down to. So the water came up past that point, up to this debris line, took all the straw away. I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but there is already grass was already germinating, was already starting to come up all in between the straw and the flags. But it has changed quite a bit out here, and that has taken away a lot of the sand that was down here, that was, firm, wasn't dry, loose sand. It was hard packed sand around all these rocks, and now we have all these rocks down here. I was gonna take this material down anyway and lower the bank so I could do, like I said, get an angled bank all the way down to the water, so it'd be easy for us to mow and maintain it. But the water has done me a favor in a way and has removed a lot of material. But I kind of need that sand to mix in with the rocks to move over here to build up the ground over here. So now I just have a lot of rock. And what looks like large rocks like that right there, that's not a rock. That's actually clay. It's soft. And what's funny is that there's several different colors of clay. There's a yellow clay, there's this more red clay. There's some red clay right there. That's actually clay, that red thing. Looks like a rock, but it's clay. And this brown clay. So you got brown clay, red clay, yellow clay. All in the same spot. All with these rocks that are left behind. So this was all underwater. The bridge was underwater. That grassy area that has been out of the water in previous floods, meaning 3 or 4 days ago, and then back in January, the water didn't get that high to go over that. Well, this last couple days it did. And it took a lot of the sand that was over here on our property, took it across the road onto properties over there. Took it across the road there. There is some nice, clean, fine sand deposited right there. And then behind my neighbors, way over there, where that tree is laying on the ground, I'll zoom you in. There's a big beach behind his house now, as well as right here by his truck. And his truck and everything had about at least 2 feet of water. There's a bunch of debris in his grill right there. And it floated away. A kayak, he said. He had 2 kayaks and one got floated away. Just totally gone. But this is the T intersection that I've shown in previous videos. And so I'll show you the debris line up here. That shows that it got much higher than previous rainfalls. Here's this log that used to be across here in the last video. Now it got floated up even higher ground and got shoved against these bushes. So where the water only got up to the second bush here. There's the first bush, there's the second bush. Now it got all the way up to end of the row of bushes. because there's a debris line right across here. This is the straw that my wife had put around this blackberry patch we're trying to get established here next to the barn. So we're before it just got up to where these blue flags are in this sand here. Now it's gone up even farther. And before we purchased the property, I was looking at some floodplain maps, and it did show water getting up to the corner of this barn. I figured, okay, well, it's just going to flood down here once every 2 to 5 years, maybe. Well, we've only been here since November. It's now beginning of April, and it's flooded twice majorly. And this time it's been over a 3 and 4 day period of flooding and receding and flooding again the next day or 12 hours later or something. So we're left with a lot of rocks, less sand, more rocks. I mean, the rocks were there, they were under the sand. They were going to get moved eventually. But it has scoured out a lot of this that I had planned on taking out to make the creek wider leading up to the bridge here, so that the water would have a free flowing path to the whole width of the bridge. Because people, I think, have been filling this in through the years, making the creek narrower and narrower. I wanted to make it wider and wider. And so this last flood has helped me out with that. This is that soft spot where I kept getting stuck in one of the previous videos trying to get at that piece of concrete. So a lot of that has gotten washed out, which is good, because I didn't know how I was going to get down there, because I couldn't get past this quicksandy area right here. So I think I may make myself some mats like you see, wood mats like you see excavators guys. Hey, Magnum, come! Use. So I think I'll make some of those and put those out there so I can get at closer to the bridge and clean more of that out. So we just have a lot of rocks to move now. We've already discussed where we're going to put the rocks. We're going to put them way down here at the other end, upstream, right near the corner of my neighbor's property, where I had stacked up the largest rocks that I was coming across to try to save his property line, his fence that was marking the property line, the corner of his property. But that whole area got undermined during this last flood, and all those big rocks are now down into the creek. Right over here was the corner of my neighbor's property. Our property goes behind his. Our property's in an L shape here. So all them big rocks that I had stacked up here, and they were huge rocks, they're down in the water now. This is very deep here. And then all this debris got shoved up against his fence, took his fence down. You can see the barbed wire laying there, but he doesn't have horses in there anymore. He was boarding some horses, and I haven't seen the horses for a couple weeks now. So no worries there, I guess. But it also scoured out this large hole. So that's how hard the water was coming through here. It plastered this fence here and brought all this debris, scoured out this big hole. And again, floodplain maps that I looked at before purchasing the property showed that just like over there at the barn, getting up to the corner of the barn, it also got up to the corner. Well, it was an area here where the previous owners had a storage container on this flat area where I have this wood stacked. They had a storage container there, and the floodplain map showed that it got up to there. And if you look into here down on the ground, you can see that the water did get up to here because there's all the leaf litter that the water deposited through this row of trees and bushes that are growing along the fence here. Did have one major washout area here of our straw, our seeded, an area that we put straw on to hold the seed there, so we got to fill that in and get some more seed. And we'll see what's going to come up here. We like to get this seeded down here farther, but I want to bring the majority of those rocks from all over there, all those rocks that got exposed, and put them all along here. From that point, put them in a curve along here, and back all those rocks up with a lot of smaller rocks like we've accumulated at the base of the birdhouse there. There are some big ones in there, but there's a lot of little ones, and a lot more little ones we'll pick up and put behind the larger ones that we're going to be placing here. So that's the plan, Stan. But this area down here is like a nice wide pool in a way, and I thought if I could do that, I'd want to do that, but now I don't have to do it because the water did it for me. So we could almost like sit on this beach right here and go fishing, because it's kind of deep out there. Because a lot of this got washed out, and even rocks. I mean, rocks like softball size and maybe a little bigger, they got washed down here. And there's a little point of them there. And then down, way down towards the bridge where looks like there's kind of some rapids started there. Rocks got carried all the way down there and kind of narrowed the underside of the bottom of the creek, and that's why there's kind of some rapids there now. So that was all amazing there. That it had enough force to move those rocks along and deposit them downstream. And the sand, of course, was no problem for it because it took a lot of the sand off here, like I said, and took it across the road and put it on other people's properties. But yeah, right here where the dog is, yeah, all these rocks weren't here before. This was a bank that dropped off, and I was going to cut it down. And now all these rocks are in here. I mean, some of them are almost football size. So it put a lot of rocks in here. It's also narrowed up the creek. And whenever you narrow up a creek, it has a more scouring effect and removes more material on. And actually, I wanted to remove more material on the other bank there and make the creek wider that way as well. If we get some more rains, that's what's going to do. It's naturally going to scour that bank out and scour it back, which is what I had planned on trying to do. So thank you, Lord, for all the help. But we really didn't want all these rocks to move. Well, we would have had to move them anyway, because I was going to have to rip all this material up. I didn't know these rocks were under here. But they were going to have to be moved with the sand I probably would have sorted them out and piled them over there by the birdhouse, and so I came up with an idea for them. But that's what we got. A lot of rocks and not as much sand anymore. That was scoured off, most of it. This is April, I believe it's April 7th today. So right here was the spot in the previous video, one of the previous videos, one of the more recent videos, where I was scraping this down here, and I was going to leave this grassy area I had stated in that video, where that chunk of concrete is. Well, now that's mostly scoured out with a bunch of rocks that were deposited on top of the sand. Took some of the sand away behind it, so that was kind of nice. But then I got all these rocks here, and then behind me right here, where I had said there used to be a beaver dam from previous Google Maps Street View, and that there was a soft spot here that I kept getting stuck in. Now that is all filled in with sand, and it feels pretty firm when I'm standing on it anyway. So that's kind of nice. That got taken care of. So I still need to widen up the creek, but I'm gonna just let the water take care of that side over there on the right. The next heavy rains is gonna be zipping through that tighter spot there and chew that bank away over there. So, but this is kind of a nice pondy area now. Be looking forward to some larger fish moving in here.